some things I gotta do. Hey, 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 hey. I'm making a move.
Hey everyone, Atch is back for another episode of At Your Service, and today we have a very special guest, Eddie Saunders, who is the creative director, which is probably one of the coolest titles I've seen at a Flex Machine Tool. So Eddie, it's great to have you on the show.
No, it's really, really awesome. I appreciate you taking the time just to have you so we could just talk about a lot of cool things today. So thank you.
Yeah, no, of course. Well, introduce yourself. I mean, we've only gone back and forth on LinkedIn, so I'd love to learn more about you, and I know the audience is too.
Yeah, very, very loaded question you just asked me, and that's okay. That's okay, right? Let's be full of them. But, a proud father, a proud husband. I got 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls, amazing wife, Michelle, that supports me in all the awesome stuff that I do inside and outside of work. I'm an absolute busybody, but just adventure and passion junkie, if you will, former mixed martial arts fighter and I actually currently run a gym and coach as well through the Hive MMA, which is amazing, really good passion of mine. And then outside of those things, active member within my church, within my community, and then lover of kind of all things manufacturing, trying to be the coolest cartoon character that manufacturing's ever seen, doing it one episode at a time, man. So that's what I'm all about.
That's awesome. Well, what drew you originally to the automation space?
Well, I mean, in all reality, regardless of where you're at in your world, we're going to be affected in one way or another by automation, whether it's directly or indirectly. And so me kind of going into that manufacturing world, obviously automation is like a really big buzzword. It's something you're hearing a lot of people talk about. And so it's just a topic that regardless of what you do, especially in the manufacturing world, you can't get away from it. You're going to hear people talking about it. And so why not, if you know that something is going to become even more relevant in the future, why not make yourself familiar with it so that when it is super relevant to you, you at least know what you're doing. You can at least kind of move forward with a little bit of strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like you said, I mean, it's here now. I think even COVID's kind of helped companies that were afraid to go that automated route, and now they're being forced to do it, but it's going to make everything better in the long run. So it's pretty exciting. I mean, there's a lot of, and to your point, forming that strategy so we know exactly where to go into the future. But the main reason why I reached out to you was you honestly just changed my entire mindset when it comes to talking about company culture. And I had a post, it was a former video that I had, but then you described culture as a vibe. And I literally can't stop thinking about it because I've never thought of it that way. So I was honestly hoping if you could elaborate more on that and then kind of touch on, I feel like there's a misconception between, a perk versus a culture, if you know what I mean. So there's, everyone always says, oh, we have a pool table, we have nap pods. I mean, those are perks. That's not necessarily culture.
Sure. So many people think of culture as just something that you see internally, but I would argue that it's just as important as to how you're viewed externally. Because a culture to me, again, is almost that feeling that you can get as soon as you're greeted at the door. It's not playing ping pong at breaks, and all those little things that you had just mentioned. It's not those things specifically. Does that make up something? Yeah, absolutely. But the vibe, a big rule of that is it involves and requires other human beings. So obviously within our building, the human beings that are within that space operating every single day, if you think about it directly and indirectly representing your brand and your company, those are really batteries to what that is. And that's why I truly feel it's a vibe, because everybody thinks it's all of these perks. And I think drawing that line is perfect because people don't draw it enough, and everybody thinks that it's just these few facets. And if you have these things, okay, cool, everyone's going to be happy. And we've got great culture here. Culture is so much more than a social media post or a video, if you will. It's really the story that you tell and the feeling that other people from the outside get from experiencing it, not just the experience that those within your company are currently having and going through. So it's just so much more to me than, again, social media posts and all the rah. That's great. Yeah. But is it everything? I would argue that it's not.
Yeah, no. And I think vision's a big part of it too. I mean, it's honestly the main reason why I joined Miller Resource. I mean, like you said, you're walking through the door. I mean, looking back, I mean, the vibes were immaculate. I mean, I'll be honest. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just knew that these people bought into the vision that, our president and owner, Gary Miller, had. And these people genuinely love what they do, and they genuinely love to be around one another, joking around, working hard, playing hard. And when you can do that internally, you can show that externally, because that's not, oh, here's a ping pong table or pool table. It's we're actually doing things together because we enjoy being around each other. So, but again, I just could not get over the vibes thing. I think that's revolutionary in how to describe.
Yeah, it's about people, man. And I love how employers, the pandemic has honestly taught us that we need to be people first employers, and that a culture in itself is almost a recruiting tool. It truly is, but that requires good people to be bought in to not only just the vision, but that collaborative teamwork type of synergistic environment. If you can find that, it's not the easiest thing to get, but we can all imagine jobs that we've had previously that have sucked. Everybody around just hates it. There's water cooler BS talk. Yep. It's like that in itself contributes negatively to it, but it still contributes. So having good people inside your doors that really are genuinely bought in. There's a reason people say that. Some people say it's cliche, but being bought into the vision, it's an absolute battery to what it is you're doing. And I think you make a really good point there.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you think, because I feel like it's always a goal for companies. I mean, you want to be a destination employer. So you need to have that strong culture. So, maybe, it's something that companies are hoping to get better. So how do you think, I guess, what avenues can companies take to improve their culture?
Well, sure. Well, I would say being open-minded and having big ears. Really big ears and big eyes and big minds, if you will. And what that means is being attentive and paying attention to those who define your culture, right? So if I'm thinking of the engine of a car, I need to make sure that I'm taking care of that engine and all the components that make that happen. Your humans within your big business and your building, that is the engine to your specific culture. And I think the biggest mistake that's being made is people think I've always done it this way, therefore I can continue to always do it this way. We've always had this HR policy. That's the way that it is. We've always had this dress code. That's the way that it is. And so opening up your mind to saying, hey, maybe I should listen to what it is that they want, because if I empower these human beings and put them in the position to succeed and give them the opportunity to genuinely express their passions, to grow, and to just genuinely care about them, I think a lot of what you're talking about is going to happen organically. And so if we can't do that first step and we don't prep ourselves, there's going to be that friction. If we're not lubricating the tap or lubricating the cutting tool that's cutting into this new hard material, for lack of a better term, that is this new culture, because sometimes change is scary, but if we're listening and we're watching and we keep our mind open to what it is that our employees want and what's going to really build upon that, I think at the core we can create happiness, and through happiness breeds, I think, a lot of this culture we're talking about. Because you can think you got a great culture, but if your employees are unhappy, it doesn't matter all the amenities and perks that you provide, it's going to be counterproductive.
Yeah, well, like you said, it starts at the top and it trickles down. I mean, that's exactly. So if they're not listening, then things aren't going to get better. But if they take that active approach, then, things are going to slowly but surely change. And it's not something that's going to change overnight. It's going to take work. But I think as long as companies, and even if they think they have a great culture, I'm sure that there's ways to make it even better. So taking those steps and, like you said, actively listening and hearing what people say. So what role, because I know a lot of people are starting to increase their presence on LinkedIn and other social media platforms too. I mean, what role do you think this could have, not only, internally, but externally, when showing, hey, we're doing some cool stuff here, come work with us, whether it's I actually need to buy their products or I'm looking for a new job.
Yeah, it's crazy because like one of the biggest mistakes I feel people make in marketing is I marketing, and not the I, but almost someone could say, but the letter I, if you will. So it's what we see, and then what do I feel? So it's kind of a two-pronged situation for a play on words. And what I mean by that is we market based off of, okay, we think we're good, so we're just going to tell everybody that, which is okay. But the biggest mistake that we're making, or that individuals can make, is marketing based off of our own simple perspective. So we feel, okay, our culture is great here. Everybody should know that. We have great products. Everybody should know that already, right? But that's really an incorrect assumption. And I think that when you're talking about whether it's recruiting new individuals in the future or just telling your story, now we have more opportunities, channels to do that than we ever have before. And that's why you're seeing a lot of brand stories pop up and people are talking more about themselves, but in a way that they never have before. And you're seeing individuals being able to connect with these brands. When I moved over into marketing here at Flex after 11 years in sales, one of the biggest initiatives that I wanted to push out is I want to humanize our brand. And I want to create a buddy system, because I know that if we can tell our story and we do it appropriately, it'll allow others to connect to the humans within our business and connect to our culture, instead of saying, okay, well, you sell these products. That's cool. They're great. We love them. Awesome. But we don't need to care.
Yes.
So it also helps us engage with those individuals, whether, again, it's a prospective customer or a prospective employee. We give them bits of our story every step of the process, and we're making sure to put our best foot forward. And it's huge. It's huge for us to not only experience it internally, but to use the different vehicles that we can to tell our story, shine our light a little bit brighter, and then turn our volume up to 11. Because those who want to hear it are going to listen. You're going to create super fans and best friends. Those who aren't trying to hear it, well, you weren't talking to them in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's important too. It's a give when you're out on these platforms, because you don't want to make it about because when it is, then people are just going to turn their back and say, all right, cool, we don't need this right now. Well, we'll talk another time. But if you keep giving those pieces of content out there, like you said, giving bits and pieces of your story, it allows people to buy in even further. And that way, even if it's not right now, you're still top of mind. So that goes back to that brand recognition and that repetition that we can have. So, I mean, it's crazy what specifically what LinkedIn has been able to do, not only for us, but other companies in the industry, as well as growing that footprint and allowing companies to, again, showcase their culture and actually show people in action doing what they genuinely love to do. So, but I mean, any other lasting thoughts that you have relating to culture in terms of, why it is so important, or anything that we might have missed?
Yeah, the good old rip and duplicate, right? So, I mean, it's tried and true. Sounds cliche, but cliche to me is time tested. So for anybody who's genuinely saying, hey, look, we're doing great, but if we're thinking to the future, let's not pull a Toys R Us and not look at the growing landscape and be so relevant to almost actually pretty much virtually irrelevant, just like that. So if you're looking at the future, which there is a workforce shortage, so being in, I guess, having a solid environment and not only telling people when they walk through the door, but telling that story every step of the process and giving them something to see, to embrace, to digest, but also connect to, is going to put you in the best position to not only engage with that top talent, attract that top talent, and also tell your story to prospective customers. So, as you mentioned earlier, staying front of mind. So we don't have to think about, hey, we know we have good products and good machine tools here, but we want you to know that we are a good company. We have good human beings. And so when you buy this product, you're not buying it from a brand, you're buying it from a group of human beings. Yeah. And that's something that we've done on a marketing perspective. So to prevent any type of damage in the future, or to help make sure that you're accelerating your rate at which you can keep this solid talent that will carry you into new ideas, new innovations in your future. Give yourself a great, attractive place to work. Tell your story. Keep an open mind, eyes, and ears to figure out what your employees want. And then the rip and duplicate comes from find great things that other big employers are doing to help really bring that cutting edge. And we've been really inspired here, and we're doing a lot of out of the box thinking for a mid-sized company, because we're emulating and looking at the large things. So stay on top of it, eyes, ears, and mind open.
I love that. Well, you brought up a good point. I got one more question kind of bouncing off of that is, like you said, there is a shortage of workers right now. It seems every company's looking to hire. But, also it's been a passion of mine. And I know I've probably posted too much about this, but again, I don't think you can post too much about this, is attracting attracting that next generation of talent. I look at someone like myself, 3 years out of school, I knew manufacturing existed, but I didn't know how deep it went. So I've been able to carve out a niche here and learn more about packaging and food processing. So I've kind of made it a passion project. Okay, how are we going to get new people into this industry? And then you kind of touched on it with, building that strong culture, and it kind of wraps everything up. But what are other ways that you think we'd be able to attract that, I guess, younger generation over to our industry? Because, I mean, I don't know, we need it, because it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So we need the people to, carry on these legacies for infinity years.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm going to go back to the original point. You have to give humans something to connect to, because really I've changed in my mindset, the not the acronym, if you will, but the B2B. Everyone knows B2B, business to business. Yeah. I would personally argue, and you heard it here first or last, whatever.
hot take.
Exactly. It's B2B is H to H, and that's human to human, because even though two brands or businesses are interacting, you would be a fool to not recognize that the sole element of anything happening, nothing happens until human to human interaction happens. And so there's a lot that we could go into when it comes to the psychology and how we interact with these specific things. But if you really want to put yourself in that forward, like to answer your question, is you need to give them something to connect to. A question I used to ask myself all the time is, what have you done today to let the world know that you exist? Not what did you do yesterday, not what's on your content schedule tomorrow. What did you do today to tell your story, shine your light, turn your volume up to 11, and let the world know that you exist? So if individuals are trying to stay ahead of that curve and look at this new talent, you have to give them something to connect to, because there are no shortage of jobs, and especially in this specific environment.
No.
So it's almost like in the housing market. It's a buyer's market, it's a seller's market. Well, it's honestly a prospective employees market right now because they have choices. So what are you doing to attract, engage, and then retain them throughout the entire process, while also establishing yourself as a place that has great culture? And I think we do it by all the above and previously mentioned.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I mean, I feel like I've touched on some of that before, but it's given me new insights and ideas on how we can kind of continue down this path and keep attracting this new talent in. And again, full circle, it starts with having a strong culture and having something that people can believe in. All right. Hey, Eddie, well, thank you so much for taking time out today to talk to me. It was great insight. I love your viewpoint on culture and how we can continue to attract the next generation of talent. So you are always welcome back on this show.
No, it's awesome to be here. And just the last little things is, anybody out there who's trying to do anything in this world, shine your light, turn your volume up to 11 and tell your story, because whether you believe it or not, there are plenty of people out there who want to hear it.
I love that. Shine your light, volume up to 11. Let's get it done, everybody. Thank you.
I'm making a move. Study long, study wrong. Ain't nothing gonna happen on its own. I'm making a move. Don't need no angels for this song. I got joy all through my soul. I'm making a move. Get up, get out. Mr. Sun is shining on me.